Harihi Om Ganana Tva Ganapati Havamahe Kavyo Kavenamubhamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatha Anashunvanno Devasya Dasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Virvajinevati Dhinama Mitrayavato Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalar Spatikatruthim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Ayagrivam Yasyat Varada Vakradhyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Ti Satatam Vishwashremam Tamashraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Bisaje Bhavarogina Nidhaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurthaye Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Saishwararpanamastu Prapanna Parijathaya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gitamrutate Namaha Sarvopanishad Gao Dokta Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsau Sudhir Bhokta Duktha Gitamrutat Mahat Vasute Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vandhe Jagatkurum Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Krishnarpanamastu Tadastu. Good afternoon or good evening. Sai Ram and welcome to session 3 or week 3 of the core teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. So we've been traveling for the last 2 weeks and we continue to travel, seeking the path that will give us the jnana or knowledge to change and transform some things in life that we are currently doing, that we are currently exposed to, that we are currently conditioned to, conditioned by, conditioned from, right? To change a little bit so that life will show a slightly different perspective to us. So in week 3, we are looking at chapters 3 and 4. So as I said, if you're with me in the journey, then I will take you to the battlefield, take you to the conversation between the Paramatma, or Sri Krishna, and the Jivatma, Arjuna, who in the middle of the battlefield, right, when the Paramatma stopped time, one of the names of all the God forms is Kalatitaha. That means one who is beyond time. That is why in at least 3 instances in the Mahabharata, you will find that Krishna stopped time when he was talking to 2 or 3 people. One of them was Arjuna, right? To reveal who he really was, right? So they can stop time. And they will stop time if it is required, right? So what is chapter 3 all about? Chapter 3 is called Karma Yoga. And that is why I spent 3 weeks doing Karma Part 1, Karma Part 2, Karma Part 3, so as to give you the right sort of background or backdrop against which I can build on the core teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, a specific reference to chapter 3, no doubt. There's 43 verses. So in this chapter is where Krishna is telling Arjuna, everything is down to action. Not as you plan, Arjuna, to be inactive in this war. Everything is down to action. So how is it that one can be liberated from his actions, from his karma, and finally attain the supreme status? This was the conversation. Performing one's duty was what Krishna was all about. And I think I made mention of this last week when I spoke about the duty of Arjuna as a warrior, as a Kshatriya, and as a human being. 3. So Krishna spoke about these 3 things in chapter 2, which was Jnana Yoga. So chapter 3 is Karma Yoga, and aptly he joined these 2, and chapter 4 is entitled Karma Jnana Sannyasa Yoga. So even in karmic actions, one can become a sannyasi by exercising sufficient depth of jnana. And chapter 4 is called Karma Jnana Sannyasa Yoga. Okay, so chapter 3 we'll look at is how one should perform his duty. Now this Krishna is telling Arjuna, actually he's telling the whole of mankind. So we are listening to it now. The same lesson, the same consequences will apply to you as well as anyone else, right? So there are 42 verses, like I said, in chapter 3. And he gives an introduction. I think the first 7 verses, he's talking about what is karma, flowing from, chapter 2. When you really analyze the Bhagavad Gita, it is a fantastic science that is connected, chapter 1 to chapter 2, chapter 3. It's like a book. The last sentence and the first sentence in 2 chapters will always connect themselves. So it is amazing how on a battlefield, amidst the entire warring fraternity on both sides, Krishna can come up with such a brilliant, right, transition of this knowledge to Arjuna, who's in a complete state of despondency. It is just like, when we are in a troubled state of mind, we always go to the Lord, isn't it? And if we listen deep enough, if we listen long enough, to do with patience, right? Human beings are never patient. They want something straight away. Even when they're talking to God, praying to God, meditating on God, a quick fix. Devotion is not like that, and spirituality certainly is not like that. It takes years and years and years to spiral and finally touch that one crest of jewel that will give you the turning point in your life. And you have to work slowly, So he talks about an introduction about himself, right? Then he goes for about 13, 14 verses, he talks about Karma Yoga. Then he says how a person in this life can be wise, and then his karmic actions become wiser. So the wise, when exercising actions, become wiser, and as a result, they can latch into the spiritual consciousness. So he talks about Karma Yoga, then he takes karma into, the fix of a wise man and talk about what wise people do, wisdom. And then he talks about desire and the solution. You see, the beauty about the Gita is it talks all about the problems of life, and Krishna gives a solution to every single problem of life. Right? This I'm telling you, right? If you read the Gita through, anytime you have a problem in life, you read the Gita through, and there will be a solution for you. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So that's the last, I think about 7 or 8 verses. He talks about the problem of desire, moha vasana, and what you should do. So since everything is about action in this, what you should do, what you should not do, all that is down to the word karma. This chapter is called Karma Yoga. Okay, the path of action, Karma Yoga. Okay, so Arjuna asks Krishna, you are God, I am man. God, who is Nirakara, Nirshuddha, you are all clear in terms of conscience, in terms of clarity, in terms of fairness, in terms of balance, in terms of dharma, in terms of, why are you asking me to engage in ahimsa? Oh, sorry, himsa. You should be ahimsic. Why are you telling me to follow the path of action when I want to follow the path of knowledge? Because remember, chapter 2 was all about jnana yoga. So Arjuna is telling, why are you talking to me about action when you've spoken already to me about jnana, path of knowledge, jnana yoga, path of knowledge. So I would like to follow the path of jnana yoga, but you seem to want me to do karma yoga, So Krishna says, actually, there are two paths. One is, the path to achieve wisdom and live your life according to that. That is jnana yoga. And another part is where you renounce the materialistic living in a world, where you stop contemplating or focusing just on your work or your family, everything surrounds you. That is karma yoga. But even in karma yoga, you can exercise jnana yoga to quell karmic actions. Krishna says, you are born as a human being, you cannot avoid action. And you cannot gain wisdom by avoiding that action. You have to do the action by exercising wisdom. So Arjuna asks, what if I don't have the wisdom? Then you have to get that wisdom and live life according to those very injunctions that has been laid down on the basis of dharma. So what should one do? Was Arjuna's question. Selfless service. Every single person born or who takes the janma of a human being have to strive constantly, right, to serve the welfare of the Bhuloka. And the Bhuloka just does not mean human beings. It means all life beings. Hence, Swami has said, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. It's not just human beings. Right? Janma Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, otherwise it would have been. But it's not Janma Loka. It's Samasta Loka. That means every single living thing, animate, inanimate, they're all energy. Energy. So all forms of energy is relevant here. And Krishna says, as the result of achieving that wisdom, that jnana that separates him from the ordinary man, you will become a role model for others. Krishna says, look, I am the Lord. I have taken this avatar. I have no needs. Why should I come here and go through all this? Because I am working so that everybody else can follow the dharmic path. Then he tells Arjuna, once a person lives not for himself, but for the divine mission, Manasa Seva, Madhava Seva, Jana Seva, Janardana Seva, then his karmic actions will have God sitting on it. And when God sits on it, no karma will follow you. But to do that, you need the Traikarana Suddhi. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions must vibrate at the conscious and subconscious level at the same level, reverberate at the same level. When you can achieve that, then you don't have to worry about karma. Right? So that is what he was saying. The laws of the universe, he says, dictates that man must learn to be selfless. That is the very reason for his birth. Karunya Janma Paripalana. So you must lose. When you try and go, your ego will come and stop you, So in that process, one must lose the ego. Then the journey becomes much more short. So Arjuna says, if the way you say it seems so early, then why is it that people are not doing it? Why are they selfish? Krishna says, well, because the thoughts, the words, the actions are all going towards Rajogunaha. 3 modes of action, isn't it? Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and Sattvaguna. I'll talk about that later in another chapter. But he says, selfish desire, Krishna said to Arjuna, selfish desire, Arjuna, is a product of the senses and the mind. They must be conquered in order for you to achieve self-realization. And only when you're vibrating at that state of self-realization can you become of useful service, not just service, useful service for the other creation. Otherwise, you can't even serve yourself for the right purpose. How are you going to serve others? That is why Krishna said to Arjuna, you cannot give to others what you yourself don't have. So first get it, then give it. Get it and give it. G-I-G-I. Get it and give it. Okay, so Arjuna says, okay, so you are telling me, that you have been through all this, but I'm only seeing you now. So how do I know that you have, set this in motion through various yugas, various ages, various times, various kalas? And Krishna said, Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya chatuskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He says, Arjuna, you don't know, right? Because Arjuna is saying, Lord, you seem to be contradicting me. You seem to be making contradictory statements. You say knowledge, then you say action, you say jnana yoga, karma yoga, then you're saying you've been here throughout the passage of time in different ages, but you are here now. So how am I supposed to know? So that's why he said, and never there is an imbalance in dharma and unrighteousness prevails over righteousness, then I, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, I will incarnate to restore the balance. There is an imbalance here between these two warring clans. Of course, there were other greater reasons, right? Of Kamsa, his uncle, and all of that. So I have to take. And when the purest of bhaktas have a desire to be with me, then I have to take an avatar also to fulfill that. Typical example is Prahlada, who was constantly living in the thought of Narayana. So I took an avatar for him. So every single avatar I take has a dharmic reason for that very avatar. So he says, Arjuna, you can live in two lifestyles. One is karma yoga nishta, which is a total inclusion, social inclusion. Or you can choose to become jnana yoga nishta. You can choose to live in the path of jnana yoga nishta, which is a seclusion. One is inclusion, the other is seclusion. Arjuna is saying, okay, if I can choose to become a householder, karma yoga nishta, or a monk, jnana yoga nishta, then it's very easy. If I become a monk, then I don't have to do this, right? Krishna says, no, it's not that easy. By choosing not to do something, you are choosing inaction over right action. Listen very carefully to this. He says, by choosing not to do something, it does not mean you are doing the right thing. It means you have chosen not to do the right thing. Therein lies the power of discrimination. So he says, whatever you choose, if you choose the jnana yoga, you still have to go through the various karmas in order for you to quell those karmic actions to become a jnani. But if you choose to live in the world, then you can choose to live in the way that you are not connected to your actions. Arjuna says, how? I'm doing it, so how can I be connected? You don't renounce the action. You renounce the fruits of the action. Give me the fruits, but you do the work. Now Arjuna wants to put Krishna in a spot. So he asks Krishna, okay, what is your way? You like karma yoga nishta, the path of inclusion, or you prefer jnana yoga nishta? Krishna says, my preference is one who chooses the path of karma yoga nishta. That means one should live in the world, but not for the world. Not for himself, but for the world. One should live in the world, but not for oneself, but for the world. In exercising sufficient wisdom, then he will come closer to me. That is the path of a karma yoga nishta, where jnana comes, and that jnana exercised in the karma will make you a sannyasa. Hence the chapter is called, the following chapter, fourth, is called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So Arjuna now asks, you are condemning inaction and you are praising an action-filled life. Can you tell me why inaction should be avoided? He says, yeah, I'll give you 3 reasons. Number 1, right? If you avoid everything in life, you are inaction, yeah? You are in a state of inaction. Then neither purity nor knowledge you can achieve by that. By avoiding things, that means not doing things right or not doing the right thing, you cannot get purity, you cannot get knowledge, right? Desire will force one to act or not to act. And when you do not act, that is a suppression of what you should be doing or should have done, right? And of course, if you don't act, what's the use of this life? Your life, a mind without occupation will die. That's why they said an idle mind is the devil's workshop. An idle mind will brood over sense pleasures, and such a hypocritical mind, over a period of time, it will die. There is no doubt about that. And then he goes on to talk about, the karma yoga, how he created the world. And he said, you are only here now, but you must understand that as the creator, as the Purusha, and as the Purusha who's created you, Manusha, you have to obey all my commandments because you are Bhritya, a Sevaka. So there are two things here, right? One, I'm the Purusha. Two, you're the Manusha. As a Manusha, you have to serve me. You serve me by serving mine. That's why Swami says, service to man is service to God. Right? Now, I tend to interpret that slightly differently. I said service to man is service to God. Service to man, I said the man is short for manas, mind. So when you serve your mind, there are two ways you can go. Either you serve God or you serve yourself. So therein lies the discrimination. So whenever I look at service to man, I'm thinking service to manas, service to the mind, can also mean service to God if you are going in the right direction. But if you're going the opposite direction, sense pleasures, lack of control, sense control, all of that, then it's not the way to God. Okay. Now, so this talk is going on, right? Why I should be in full force in action and why I cannot be, why I shouldn't be. So this is the talk that is going on, at least about 20 to 25 stanzas that come after that in this, when he says, I am the Purusha, you're the Manusha, you should serve me as a Bhritya, a servant, a Sevaka, Then Arjuna is confused now. Arjuna was confused. He was getting clear. Now he's a bit more confused after listening to Karma Yoga. He asked the God, why should karma? He asked Krishna, why should Karma Yoga be pursued? Krishna says, oh, that's an easy question. I'll give you an answer. It contributes not only to your material, but also to your spiritual progress. Right? I think once I talk about Rama, I said, spiritual and material is like two sides of the ladder. Each rung is held together by two sides. Every time you go up in the life ladder, in the samsara ladder, you have to have a firm grip on the spiritual life and on a material life. So Krishna says you have to have, karma yoga, because that is what contributes to material and spiritual growth. It is my commandment, it is my niyatam as the universal master that one should engage in action, but be independent of the action and dedicate the fruits of those actions to me. That is the difficult thing. And therein comes the tapasya, or the practice, the sadhana. That is what is difficult. And that's what you should do. It's difficult because your mind is thinking one way, right? I'm trying to bring that mind back to the dharmic path. Remember, I said to you, think of the battlefield, there is a clear path, isn't it? So Arjuna's path is going from one to the other, but not in the clear path. This is what Krishna is doing. He says, this is like when you do this, when you engage in karma in the right way, right? Dedicating all your thoughts, all your words, and all your actions, right thoughts, right words, right actions to me, and the fruits that come out of them to me, then you are actually getting involved in a yajna. You know what is a yajna, right? Sacrificial offering. So you are sacrificing all those things to me. That is good, because then I will acknowledge your gift. I will acknowledge your gift to me, and that is the only way you can live a life of dharma. That is the only way. Dharma samsthapanaya sambhavami yuge yuge, and you are living that dharma when you do this. You are saying, oh, okay, I see. So karma yoga ultimately leads to liberation through the stages of purity. Is that right? Krishna says, yes. Suddhi, buddhi, vichara, jnanam. Suddhi, purity, buddhi, mind, vichara, discrimination, and result, jnanam. Okay. Then you see, Arjuna always wants to put Krishna in a spot. He says, can you give me an example of anyone who's done that in this life? Krishna says, okay. This is the 8th avatar that I have taken, Krishna avatar. The 7th avatar, I was born as Rama, the ordinary man with no powers at all. And yet, I showed mankind how to live a life of righteousness so as to attain godhood. So how? Krishna says, look at the life of Janaka. Janaka was the king. Janaka was the king of Mithila. Yet, he completely became a jnana. He is a Raja Rishi. Raja means king, Rishi means, jnani. So he is known as Raja Rishi. While remaining in a materialistic life, he was completely detached and he was a Rishi. This is a clear example, Arjuna, this is a clear example of Karma Yoga Nishta. How someone can live in the world. Because, sometimes I get this question, right? People ask me in email or WhatsApp. They say, brother, how to live in this life by detaching? Why not? Because you're so used to living it in a detached manner, you're finding it a bit difficult to live it in a detached manner. This is called conditioning of the mind. The mind is so conditioned. It is in a comfort zone. It does not want to move. And it's telling you, look, you can't do this. It's impossible. Nothing is impossible. Even the very word impossible, if you look at it properly, it means I am possible. Paradigm shift. That's what you need. Paradigm shift. Right? So, end of the day, Arjuna is slowly getting convinced. He says, oh, okay. He said, I told you, either as a Kshatriya you should fight, or as a warrior with all these skills, you should fight. Otherwise, what's the point of having this knowledge or having the skills? Thirdly, as a human being, to get this, abhimana, this what do you call, this status of having respect, you must fight. Otherwise, people will say, what's the point this fellow? He's a prince, he's a Kshatriya, he's a warrior, and yet he ran away from the battlefield. So, the wise will act in one way, the ignorant will act in another. If you are ignorant, it's okay, but you must quell that ignorance and become wise. That is the purpose of your life, Arjuna. If you cannot die and choose to be wise by getting involved in inaction, So Arjuna says, so what if I follow the path of Karma Yoga? How do I do it? So Krishna says, 5 things you have to do. If you want to follow the path of Karma Yoga, you have to do 5 things. They are, you have to have a spiritual goal. A spiritual goal. Why you are doing it and where it should get you. Secondly, you should only offer all your actions to me. Thirdly, he says, don't worry about the result. Okay. Fourthly, free yourself from being possessive. Free yourself from being possessive. And fifth, he says, when I am here, why should you be agitated or worried? Be calm at all times. Because I am Shanta Swarupa. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Bhatmanabam Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Hridyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavavayaharam Sarva Lokaikanatham. That is me. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Patmanabam Suresham. Arjuna, when you surrender to me, that very instant when your surrender is pure and completely vulnerable, at that point, I'm already there. So, brothers and sisters, what Krishna told Arjuna, the 5 things, he is telling all of us today. If you want to follow the path of Karma Yoga, he's already given the 5 ways. Have a spiritual goal, number 1. Number 2, offer all your actions to me. Number 3, don't be concerned about the results. Number 4, free yourself from being possessive to anything, to anyone, to everything. And fifthly, be calm, for I am there. When you surrendered to me, I am carrying you. Why should you be worried? But that's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, it's difficult because man will always swing between likes and dislikes and the vasanas, right? This is called raga dvesha. Raga dvesha and vasana. Man will always go, pulling me here, pulling me there, pulling me here, pulling me there. And then Krishna says, raga dvesha vimuktastu vishayan indrayascha Atma vaishtir videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyascharan. Atma vaishtir videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. One who can control his senses, Arjuna. Arjuna says, how? By regulated practice. Then he can attain Atma Vaishya, Videyatma. That means free your soul because you come within the framework of mercy of the Lord. That's why they say always go for Anugraha. When God gives you his Anugraha, nothing and no one can come in between. You're free from all aversion. You're free from all attachment. What more you want? You know? So control of the senses, control of the mind. End of the day, that's all it comes to. How Karma Yoga? Control your mind, control your senses, finish. 5 senses of organ, 5 senses of perception. Mind. 5 horses, remember? The first week I said to you, the 5 horses. That's what you need to control. If Krishna is not holding the horse reins, can you imagine how the horses will run amok in different directions, right? So, by holding the reins of the horses, Krishna is telling you too should hold the reins of the senses within you. Then, and I am Buddhi, and you are Manas. Only when the Buddhi is holding steadfastly and controlling the senses will it be able to control the mind. Otherwise, it's a difficult thing, right? You have 2 types of vasanas, durvasanas or subha vasanas, right? Dur is, of course, negative, and of course, subha vasanas is. You should replace all durvasanas with subha vasanas. False values with right values. Dharmic values, should replace adharmic values. Krishna says, okay. He says, I have told you about the 4 purusharthas. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha, Arjuna. This has been given before. So where is your conclusion? Dharma, righteous or right conduct. Artha means possessiveness or worldly possessions. Your worldly possessions must be always accumulated by dharma, dharmic actions. Dharma, artha. Then you are fine, right? As long as you do dana and dharma with that. Then the second half is kama, moksha. Only when you control your desire, kama, then you can go to the path of moksha. So, I've already told you. Mai sarvaye karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetase nirmamo bhutva yudyasva avigatha jvarau. Offering all actions unto me, Arjuna, with a devoted mind. Do your duty without worldly expectations, without possessiveness, and without anxiety. If you do that, then I will take all the consequences and you will be freed from everything that you do. Whether in your mind it is right action or whether you think I should not have done this, but still you do it because that was your duty. And now you can understand why I'm telling you to do this. Arjuna, okay, slowly, you see, that's clarity, Before the water becomes clear, there must be some muddiness, Then all the earth will fall. This is the calming of the senses and calming of the mind. And you see clear waters. Now, 2 points I want to make about this, right? This chapter. One of the most surprising things about chapter 3, in fact, about the entire Gita is, it does not advocate any form of renunciation. There is not one point, and I've looked for this several times throughout the Gita. I cannot find one place where Krishna is saying, renounce everything. Leave everything and come to me. On the contrary, he's saying live in everything. Not leave, L-E-A-V-E. Not that leave. I'm saying live, L-I-V-E. Live in everything. Don't leave everything, but live in everything. But live with a sense of awareness. Live with the aim of selfless action. Designed not to please your own ego or for the own pacification of your sensual pleasures, but rather in the service to the higher powers. So that way, that's why Hinduism is called Sanatana Dharma, eternal righteousness. It's not a religion. It's a way of life. If you follow the right way of life, you will end up at the right place. If you follow the wrong way of life, don't worry, I'll give you another chance. Punarjanmaha. I think I mentioned in Bhajagovinda in a minute. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, that one. Right? So, what is the acronym? Now we come to the acronym part. What is the acronym for chapter 3? Chapter 3. How do you spell 3? T-H-R-E-E. Take out the H. What do you have? Tree. Mara. T-R-E-E. That is the acronym. T stands for Tyaga. R stands for rungs of the ladder, the yogic ladder. E is exemplary. And the last E is enemy of the soul. So if you want to look at chapter 3 and you want to get a solid understanding, remember it is all to do with Tyaga or sacrifice. Sacrifice is different from renunciation. Okay. Rungs, TR, R for rungs of the yogic ladder. E for being exemplary. Swami says, do as I do, not do as I say. And last one, what can stop you from doing that, i.e. enemy of the soul. So what is T? Tyaga. Like I said to you, don't leave everything behind. Live in everything, but be ahead. That means give everything to me. You must only renounce the fruits of all your good actions. Then you're fine. So that is Tyaga. That is what you must sacrifice. Don't do something and expect the award, reward, or recognition. Remember I said award, reward, or recognition. Right? RAR, I think I mentioned to you before. Reward, award, recognition. So people misunderstand this, right? There is a constant misconception of what renunciation means, right? Renunciation does not mean you leave everything, leave all this life and go and live up in the caves. Even there, if you're living in the cave, detached from everything, but your mind is still, focusing on desire, there's no point. That's why Krishna says, Karma Yoga Nishta, live in the world, but live detached from it. Live for the world. Don't become part. So move away from this thought that renunciation means becoming a sannyasi. Renounce all the fruits of the actions. That's what it means, right? So that's why I said to you, it says in chapter 3, it says, one who restrains the sense organs of action, but whose mind dwells only on those sense objects, then he deludes himself. He is actually a pretender. That is 3.6. 3.7, he corrects that by saying, one who controls the senses by that very mind and engages in active action, whilst being detached from the fruits of those actions, he is far superior and is far closer to me. So it's not just a question. Like, I give a good example, right? I've met, many people and during this fasting time, like now Navaratri, people are fasting, people will say, oh, I'm fasting. That means I only have one meal a day. Or, I do this, I do that. But, it would be nice to have this or nice to have that. But, I'm fasting. So the moment you think in your mind, you're already attached to the sense object. You might as well, this is why I tell them, you might as well go and drink it or eat it now because you've already thought about it. So it's not a question of being physically in control of what you usually do that you're not now doing. It's being that mind control you must have. Then it's far better, right? So Arjuna asks Krishna then, what about all those people who cannot do this karma like you're saying, who cannot perform karma yoga? And what about them? How can they advance spiritually? So you see, then Krishna says, okay, T-R-E-E. Let's go to the next one. This is R. R is rungs on the yoga ladder, right? Remember when I spoke to you about karma, I spoke to you about karma kanda and jnana kanda. He says to live in a karmic world, one has to exercise sufficient jnana. So he says, I'm going to give you 5 steps in a ladder, 5 rungs. T-R-E-E, right? R is for rungs of the ladder. Yeah, when you first start, everybody can start, because remember Arjuna's question was, what if someone is, incapable of doing this karma yoga? Then what do they do? How do they advance spiritually? Krishna is saying you can start on the basic ladder where you are attached to the work and you're attached to the fruits of your labor. That's what we are. 70-80% of the world is like that. We are attached to the work and we are attached to the fruits. This is called Sakarma Karma Yoga. Sakarma Karma Yoga. Then the next ladder, one rung up, the next step up is called Nishkama Karma. You see, Sakarma Karma and Nishkama Karma is where you are detached from the fruits but attached to your work. This is what I mean. Being inactive in action. Inactive to the fruits, but active to the work. Hence Swami says, work is worship. Duty is divine. devotion. Okay. Okay, so I get over my sakarma and become nishkama karma yogi. That means I don't attach myself to the fruits. Then what? Then you are developing your jnana. Your third step is jnana yoga. Your mind becomes purified as a result of you engaging in these scriptural readings and practice. Right? Either you must listen to a guru or you must read and get that jnana with the blessings of a guru. If you don't have a guru, right? Then what happens? Is it bhakti? Arjuna asks. I said, no. Krishna says no. The next stage after sakarma yoga, you become nishkama karma, then jnana. Then the fourth one is called ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga. This is where you actually go into the yoga of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Ashtanga yoga. When you do that, then bhakti yoga will start to shine, and you are there. So you see how stage by stage he's giving. This is the formula for us. So if you tell me you cannot find any answer to life's problems in the Gita, then I will show you where you can find your answers. Tell me a problem, I show you where you can find your answers. So Arjuna says, wow, if only I knew it was that easy. Karma yoga is easy with discipline, sadhana and tapas. Yeah, so what is the E? Right? E is exemplary. Krishna says, yat yat acharati shrestha stat tat yavathoro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartate. So that means whatever action is performed by a great man, common man will follow suit. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary examples or actions, all the world will pursue. That's why Swami says, lead by example, do as I do. Simple. So the E in the TREE stands for example. Become an example. Then Arjuna asks, why, despite knowing this, why are still we impelled to act against our intelligence and conscience? I'll give you a recent example. Like a smoker who's been diagnosed with cancer or lung disease or something, it decides not to smoke, but continues to smoke. I mean, what forces compel this person to do so? Because he has been given that knowledge that you're going to die because you have this disease, because of these actions, moha vasanas, consequences, result. Huh? Last E will tell you that, enemies of the soul. Krishna is telling Arjuna, kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samutpavaha, mahasano mahapapma vidyenam vidhi vairinam. He's saying, kama and krodha, these are the two killers. These are the two enemies of your soul. Kama is desire, or uncurbed or uncurtailed or uncontrolled desire, or lust if you like. Right? Krodha is anger. If you can bring these two to a control, then you transform yourself. You get out of the curse of kama isha and krodha isha. Because with that, no matter how sattvic you are, you become rajoguna. Right? If you've got 8 good characteristics, but the last 2 is kama and krodha, make 10, right? You're still not considered a sattvic person. Krishna is saying, no, you go to the rajoguna. Right? This is what man is. So Krishna tells, because man has lack of mind, sense control, and you're always judging others. You have such a judgmental approach in life. That is your greatest enemy. Desire and anger. So how can you improve? How can you improve? Story, I'll tell you a story now. This man was driving his car with his wife, right? Then he switches he says, oh, the screen is dirty. I'm going to switch the wipers on. So he switches the wipers on for a while. And then he's still complaining, look, I think it's still dirty. He stops the car and he asks the wife, go out and wipe it. So he stopped the car, the wife went and she was wiping it. And she came in, he started the journey, and then he's still complaining. Look, you have not done a good job. Clean it properly, clean it properly. He was going on for 10 minutes when finally the wife said, okay, stop the car. When he stopped the car, she took out his glasses and she cleaned his glasses and put it back. And she asked him, is it clear now? She said, wow, it is very clear now. Say, when you polish your own vision, everything else becomes clear. But when your vision itself is not polished, even the clear windscreen becomes murky. So Krishna is telling in life, don't judge other people just because you have not cleaned your own glasses. Your own perception of life you haven't cleaned. And that is the very lesson. That is the Sai Ram. If I squeeze a fruit and what comes out, this is it. Control of mind, control of sense, and do not judge. Judge not others lest you want yourself to be judged. And that from Karma Yoga takes us to chapter 4, transcendental knowledge, TK. TK. In Hindi we say TK. TK? TK is TK. Transcendental knowledge. So the next time you say TK, you must remember transcendental knowledge, right? Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Fantastic. Krishna explains the origin of the knowledge and of the Gita, right? And how it gets transferred from one age to another. Yada yada hi dharmasya. Then he also explains to Arjuna, you cannot simply from Karma Kanda become Jnana Kanda unless you have a guru or a teacher. Guru is utmost importance. So he talks about Guru Stuti. The first 8 stages, he talks about himself, how he has gone from age to age. He repeats what he has said in some of the things he said in chapter 3 at the beginning of chapter 4, just to set the scene. Sometimes we have a review, right? We have a preview and a review before the view. So he talks about that. Then he talks about avatar. What is an avatar? And what are the results of someone becoming an avatar? So if I become an avatar, Krishna is saying, do I have or do I take on, all the qualities and characteristics of life forces on earth? So he's talking about being an avatar and living in the normal world, in the Bhuloka. That's when he talks about the jnana of actually seeing inaction in action and action in inaction. Right? The characteristics of the wise. He talks about the jnanis. Then he talks about the glory of becoming a jnani. Then he talks about the benefit of knowledge. And finally saying, what is the qualification to become knowledgeable and what is going to stop you from becoming knowledgeable, right? So he repeats again, do not renounce the actions, but renounce the fruits of the action. So again and again, this message keeps cropping up again and again, right? That means we must do that, right? He says, I was there. I was the one who gave it to Surya. I was the one who gave it to Manu. I was the one who gave it to Ishvaku. I was the one who gave it to the Saptarishis. And they have been spreading this. But still, every time the yuga goes and comes and yoga, people are still doing the same thing. You see, negativity is not just existing in Kali Yuga. It exists in Satya Yuga. It existed in Treta Yuga. It existed in Dwapara Yuga. And it definitely is existing, even more so in Kali Yuga. So that's why the Lord comes to restore the balance. So now Arjuna wonders. He says, if you say, I am born as a result of my karma, then what are you doing here? Are you also subject to the very karma? So Krishna says, you as a Manusha, you are born because of your Vyashtik karma. Vyashtik karma is a result of your own doings. You either beget a life or you quell, But he says, I am not born as a result of Vyashtik karma. I am born as a result of Shrishti karma. Shrishti means world, globe, right? So the world, the karma of the world requires me to take birth from time to time. That means if I take an avatar, unless I am born as a God with all the powers, like I am now, then I can stay afloat. And Krishna says, what do you mean? He says, even though I am Krishna, but I have taken this birth. Remember, I was born. Where I was born, you remember all the history, right? I am akarta. That means I am free from all actions. But even if I participate in those actions, then I am free from the results of those actions. I am abhokta, akarna, akarta, and abhokta. Not attached to the deed, nor am I attached to the fruits. But I do it because I have to do it. This is what you have to become. Free yourself from the results of the actions. so that you are not bound by the action or by the fruits of the action. If you renounce the action but you attach to the fruits, you are still bound. There's no change. Right? If you don't renounce the action but renounce the fruit, you're still attached to the action. Right? It's a nishkama karma, not jnana yoga. So he's saying you have to get out of it, get out of the cycle. Yeah. So if I renounce all the actions to you, then does that mean I come to you? Krishna says, chapter 4, verse 11, he says, Ye yatha mam prapatyante tham stathaiva bhajamyaham mama varta manuvartate manushya partha sarvasha. He's saying, all of them, partha is Arjuna, all of them, as they surrender to me, based on what they ask me at the point of surrender, note this point, based on what they ask me at the point of surrender, I will give them exactly that. So then Arjuna says, oh, okay, so whatever path people take, everything will lead to you. You know, is that true? Krishna says, no. You know, we have everybody, says, all the paths lead to the same destination, isn't it? Now I'll come back to that, right? Towards the end of chapter 4, I'll come back to that. So Arjuna is wondering, oh, okay, so we have to renounce the actions and we have to renounce the fruits of the actions, but by doing the action. Okay, that's a bit difficult to understand. So true and complete renunciation is only possible through knowledge. Krishna says you don't understand it because you haven't developed that jnana yet. Now, after listening to me, when I finish with you, you would have developed the jnana because I'm giving you the drishti. Right? So a wise man never sees anything other than the Brahmanic force in everyone. That's why they say God is one. He is in everyone. God is one and he is in everyone. That's why you say, especially Sai devotees, when you meet somebody, you say Sai Ram, I, the spiritual self, Sa, Yi, right? The spiritual self that I am is Ram. So the other fellow is no less. He will say Sai Ram, I am also Ram. Okay, but the question is how much of jnana you have to realize that you actually, and in fact, and indeed, you are Ram. That's the key question. Not enough just saying Sai Ram, you have to come to that awareness, that state of knowledge where you know that there is no distinction between you and Ram. He is Dharmaraja. Anyway, so you see that is a beautiful, I also said this when I did Bhaja Govindam with you. It's called Nirvana Shatakam by Adi Shankara. But it clearly, displays this particular aspect of what I'm telling you. You need jnana, otherwise renunciation is not fruitful. So he says, in this one, he says, Name mrityu shankha na me jati bedaha. Pita naiva me naiva matha na janmaha. Na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishyaha. Chitananda rupam shivoham shivoham. Name mrityu shankha na me jati bedaha. Pita naiva me naiva matha na janmaha. Na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishya. Chitananda rupam shivoham shivoham. He's saying, Name mrityu shanka name jati vedaha. He says, I have no fear of death, no caste, no creed. How many times we have feared death and have been afraid of life? And we are always looking at caste, we are always looking at creed, although Swami says there's only one caste of humanity. Pita naiva me, naiva mathana janmaha. He says, I have no father, no mother, for I was never born. Now, of course, he's talking about the soul, which is, nirakara. Then the third line he says, Na bandhur, na mitram, gurur naiva shishyaha. I am not a relative, not a friend, nor am I a teacher, nor a student. Chitananda rupam. I am the complete form of consciousness and bliss. Shivoham, shivoham. I am the eternal Shiva. So, this point, Krishna tells Arjuna, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice that which is near and dear to you in terms of coming in the way between you and spiritual evolution. Only when you sacrifice this, it is like doing a yajna. So if you want to become a Brahmajnani, you have to do Brahmajnana yajna. If you want to get close to Devata, then you have to do Deva yajna. If you want to do, if you want to get over all your bhogas. If you remember, I said to you in Bhajagovindam, Yogarathova, Bogarathova, Sangaratova, Sangavihina, Yasyat Ramani Brahmathe Nityam, Nandati, Nandati, Nandatyeva. Unless and until you latch to that one supreme force, it doesn't matter whether you're yoga or boga, right? Whether you're a yogi or a bogi, it doesn't matter. So Damayajna, Samayajna, Pranayamayajna, and Aharanimayajna. You have to do all this. Only then you will get liberated from the, from the being caught up by this mind. The direct means of liberation. Of course, in all this, Brahmajnana Yajna is the most supreme. Right? If you want knowledge, you have to give up on all the other knowledge that are not necessary for you to become knowledgeable. That means he's saying only the right knowledge, only the supreme knowledge, which is knowledge of the self. Not a degree in engineering, not a degree. You need that for life, yes. Karmakanda, yes. But if you want to come out of your karmic actions, then you have Jnanakanda. Then you have to do this, right? So Arjuna says, how do I do that? This is where Arjuna becomes a Shishya to the Guru Krishna. You see, it's very important. The Guru will not come into your life and help you unless you have surrendered and accepted him as a Guru. And more important than that, the Guru accepts you as a Shishya. Right? If you follow the story of Mahabharata, even, Karna went to Drona. He says, teach me. Drona says, but you're not a Kshatriya. I can't teach you. You're the son of a charioteer. No, I can't teach you. Then Karna goes disguised as a Brahmana to Parashurama. Parashurama was Bhishma's grandmaster and he was also Drona's grandmaster. Very powerful, Parashurama. So Parashurama says, Parashurama's, one of the, if you look at the Puranic significance, Parashurama had taken a vow to eradicate all Kshatriyas. So of course, Drona cannot go there and, Karna cannot go there and say, I'm a Kshatriya. So he asks, are you a Brahmin? Because I will only teach. He says yes. And then of course, the rest is a story where, of course, when one day he was, Parashurama was sleeping on Karna's lap and a bee lands on Karna's lap. You see, this is karma. This is karma. If you lie at some point, it will come and get you, right? Or if you do inaction, at some point it will come back and hit you. Karna has learned everything. And Parashurama says, it has been a pleasure teaching you because you just grasp everything so easily. And I've also given you the Brahma Astram and also the Naga Astram, which is very, very powerful. So when the bee stung and blood was flowing, Karna just managed to control it. Because warriors, they can withstand a lot of pain. So when Guru Parashurama moved, his hand moved and he touched something wet. When he woke up and saw it was blood. At that point he knew, he said, you are not a Brahmana, you are a Kshatriya. And at that point, Karna accepted that. And he said, because you have lied to me, at the time when you most need the knowledge to kill, to defend whatever you want to do, right? You will lose that knowledge. Of course, when Krishna speaks to Kunti and she asks, go and ask the Karna for two vows or 2 undertakings. He said, tell Karna that he cannot use his, Naga Astram more than once. Because he will forget it. He knows. Krishna knew what Parashurama had told Karna. So he asked Kunti to go and reveal who she actually is. And of course, Karna realizes that is the mother. And the mother says, I need to, for you to give me 2 promises. And that was one of them, right? Not to use your Naga Astram more than once. Okay. Right. So knowledge can only be gotten when there is sacrifice in your life. This is Krishna telling Arjuna. You cannot just get it like that. You have to have sacrifice. Knowledge is the greatest purifier. It's the greatest purifier that can purify you. That is why knowledge is like the fire. And when we do yajna, we put things in the fire. We throw all the dravyas, dravya yajna. When we throw the dravyas, all the dravyas is brought to one state of equanimity. So it becomes characterless. Whether you throw an apple or whether you throw, puffed rice or whether you throw laddu, at the end of the day, you can't spot everything. After the havan is finished, you can't see. Everything is brought to one state of living. You must have that knowledge to become non-discriminatory like that. Everything is one state of equanimity. Only then you can cross this ocean of samsara. That is the boat. The boat is called intelligence. Only with that boat, no other sadhana can destroy ignorance. Ignorance is the root cause of all evils. We hear it now in this age, but Krishna told Arjuna that. Can you imagine? Right? So only the seeker, jnana, karma, sannyasa, yoga. Through jnana, your karma can make you become a sannyasa. Hence, jnana, karma, sannyasa. Yeah. Only the seeker who's purified the mind can attain knowledge by the teachings of a guru. So, Krishna is telling Arjuna, eliminate all your doubts. I am giving you all this spiritual insight, the resort for you to become a karma yogi by doing your actions but not being attached to it, not being attached to the fruits. So one who has faith in the guru and the shastras, one who has sense control, mind control, and a sincere desire for knowledge will gain that knowledge. There are four things there, right? Guru, shastra, sense control, mind control, sincere desire for knowledge. Four things you need, right? And of course, once you get this, the karmas cannot bind you because you are in my fold. Because karmas don't affect me, all those in my fold will not be affected by the karmas. I'm talking about your karmas in this life, not the karmas that you have brought with you. That you'll have to go through. But I'm saying in living this life, you can live it properly so that you don't accumulate more karma. Remember I said to you, sanchita is different, right? So karma is four different types of phases. You know, I spoke about that in the karma talks. So looking at chapter 4, how can we summarize it? It's all talking between, that's why it's called Bhagavad Gita, you know, celestial song between God and man. Since Krishna is talking about his past, I thought it'd be nice to put P-A-S-T to this as an acronym. What is P? Position of Lord Krishna. What is A? Applying the TK. You know, I started with TK. TK. Transcendental knowledge. What is S? Sacrifice. And what is T? When the sacrifice is there, it will lead you to transcendental knowledge. The process. So again, P is position of Lord Krishna, right? Yada yada hi dharmasya glahinit bhavati varada apyutthanam adharmasya tatatmanam sajamyaham. Again and again I take birth. Why? Because I need to reinstate dharma. Likewise, you have taken a life, you need to take on a guru, because otherwise you have a boat without an engine. A guru is the engine with whom you can travel far and wide. So who can be a guru? Krishna says one who has both the knowledge and the discipline can take you to TK, transcendental knowledge. That is P, position of Lord Krishna. He's saying, this is my position. Even I had a guru called Sandipani, right? Krishna is telling Arjuna, so you should also have a guru. Rama had a guru, Krishna had a guru, all the people had gurus, right? A, P-A, A for applying the transcendental knowledge. And this is where I come to that, where I said to you, you know, people are so always involved in that saying, oh, all paths lead to the same destination. All rivers lead to the same ocean. 100% I agree. That is a path. That is a river. So there can be 4 roads leading to one major road. There can be 4 rivers meeting one ocean. But that is not all human paths lead to the same destination. You are humans. You cannot use that to say whatever I do, I will end up in the same place. That's what it means. All paths lead to the same destination, isn't it? Krishna is saying, no. It doesn't mean you become a karma yogi and you do what you want in this life. You will, or whatever path you take, it will lead you to me. Remember, I said to you earlier, Ye yatha mam prabhatyante tham tathaiva bhajamyaham. I will reciprocate and reveal myself according to the consciousness of the seeker, of the follower. So he says only those with knowledge can develop their discriminatory powers and stay afloat in the ocean of samsara. Arjuna says, what do you mean? He says, look, if you're a karma yogi, You will approach me for material desires, I will grant you, because that is your path. I am the supreme, right? I will give what you ask, because it is not for me to exercise discrimination or discretion on your behalf. You have to exercise that. So if you want to live as a karma yogi and you approach me for material desires, I will say tathastu. There you go. If you're a Brahmavadi, Brahmavadi, and you come and ask me for Brahmanyana, I will grant you that. As long as you are disciplined in that path, I will also grant you that path. So you see, the path of the karma yogi, and the path of a Brahma yogi is different. Yogis will come to me, they want siddhic powers through their tapasya, they want mystical powers. Okay, I grant you that. So 3 people wanting 3 different things, 3 different pathways. All come to me? No. So who comes to you, Krishna? Arjuna asks. Krishna says, those bhaktas. Those bhaktas like my gopikas who approach me with selflessness and sincere devotion, who want to serve me and serve everything that I have created, you will come and end up with me in Vaikunta. Only that path will bring you to me. So you see, all paths do not lead to the same destination. This is the beauty of the intelligence of the Bhagavad Gita. It dispels all wrongful footings we have in life. So Krishna says, all paths do not lead to the same destination. So Arjuna says, okay, so what am I supposed to do next? You come to the last one. He says, okay, sacrifice. What do you mean sacrifice? He says, look, you have 4 ashramas, right? Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanapadishta, and Sannyasa or Rishihood, right? So as a Brahmachari, you should sacrifice. What should I sacrifice? Knowledge. Whatever you hear and whatever can control your mind and senses is what you should be focusing on. Everything else you sacrifice. What if I become a Grahastha? Then a regulated family life filled with the 2 Ds, Dana and Dharma. Grahastha equals Dana and Dharma. Finish. What about the 3rd stage, Vanapadishta? Then austerities, breath control, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. That's your path. Then of course, what if I want to become a rishi? Yeah, wanting to become a rishi and wanting to merge with me are 2 different things. If you want to become a rishi and still, hover between the Suvaloka and the Bhuloka, right? Because you're in the Bhuloka, right? Bhuva, Swaha, right? Swaha is where we are, right? I mean, Krishna and all. Bhuloka is all the rishis who come and go, trying to help mankind time to time. Bhuloka is where we are. So he says, if you want to be a rishi, then you have to do different types of yajna. Okay, you are a Kshatriya, you know some yajnas, but if you want to grow, right, then he says, like Vishwamitra, you must do different types of yajna, like Tapomaya yajna, Swadhyaya yajna, Dravyamaya yajna, Pitrumaya yajna. Like that, you can do so many different yajnas. So Arjuna says, okay, forget about them because I am a Grahastha. What sacrifice should I do? Come to the last, the transcendental knowledge process. He says, approach a bona fide guru and he will lead you from asat to sat, which is why we say the Brihadaranya Upanishad prayer, Brihadaranya Upanishad, asattoma satgamya, damastoma, jyotirgamya, mrityorma, amardam gamya. This is the Brihadaranya Upanishad. He says, approach a bona fide guru. Tat vidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. He says, just to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, you have to just submit to him, inquire in a submissive manner and render service unto him. Only then you can become a self-realized soul and he will impart the knowledge to you because you are a true seeker. So Arjuna says, what is the benefit of finding such a guru and submitting oneself to the guru? And Krishna says, if you look at the last few verses in chapter 4, he says, the Shishya, the student or the pupil, will benefit in 4 ways. 1, the student, the Shishya, never falls into illusion because the guru will always guide you. That is why the guru's position is even before God. Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, then only Aditi or Guru Deva. One crosses the ocean of miseries with that knowledge given by the Guru. Number 2. Number 3, one learns how to destroy the sins of reactions through the Guru giving you that knowledge. And of course, one learns how to serve others because the Guru can plant the seed of bhakti in you. And Arjuna says, okay, Krishna, does that mean everyone who has a Guru will get these benefits? Krishna says, that's where you are wrong again. Just because you have a Guru does not mean you will get all these benefits. Verse 39, if you can go and read the translation, right? Forget about the Sanskrit version. Don't read the translation. He says, only the faithful, those who are dedicated in sense control and mind control, only they, through the Guru, can come to me. And 40, he says, at the exclusion of all others, right? Not the faithless, not the doubtful, not those who make excuses of all kinds, not those who are unable to control their senses nor their mind. Then Arjuna says, so can you tell me at what point will someone realize they have got spiritual success or that spiritual knowledge? And Krishna says in that verse 41, that last verse, he says, when one desires no fruits, when one has no doubts, and one only seeks to serve every single creation of the Lord, then you are vibrating at that level. And Krishna says, Jnana Yoga. And that's when Arjuna bows and says, please accept me as your disciple. So it has taken 4 chapters just to make Arjuna become Krishna's disciple. With that, we come to the end of chapter 4. Now, after all that, Arjuna has finally submitted and become a disciple of Krishna. Chapter 5 and 6, we'll see what happens next. Next, we will go back into the battlefield because that is where everything happens at the end of the day. So, Swasti Prajabhyam Paripalayantam Nyayena Madhyena Mahi Mahisha Go Brahmanebhyo Subhamastu Nityam Samasta Lokha Sukhino Bhavantu.